the charge. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Heck, we're even on TikTok. There's something for everyone here. We're excited to engage with you. We hope you'll join us moving forward.
Good morning. Welcome to Stock Talk, the market mindset.
Yes.
It's going to take a long time to get used to, but
you're going to screw it up so many
know.
times.
Everyone's going to get sick of me always saying it, but hey, we're changing the name from Supercharged Stocks to the market mindset. So we'll get into a little bit about that, but I'm getting used to saying that. We're going to talk about a couple quick things. Austin's going to catch us up with Royal Winds. And we'll maybe lead off with that, and then we'll chat a little bit about Arianne Phosphate, because interesting developments there. They had a very interesting press release, and just a little piece of news that kind of, I think it ties everything together as well in regards to China. So Austin, why don't you lead us off and let us know what's happening with Royal Winds?
Yeah, so we'll jump right into that first. And it was something that we already kind of anticipated and knew was in the pipeline and going to be coming down, but they've officially announced that they are going to be entering the U.S. market. They're going to be opening themselves up to what will be honestly a massive chunk of revenue and growth opportunity for them in the U.S. But they will be entering the U.S. market. They're going to be introducing their games out there, obviously with their recent collaborations with the Skill and Gaming Council, and along with their acquisition of that Winning with Words as well, which is a specific game. They're going to be rolling all of that out in the U.S. It's going to target a market that I believe in 2021 is expected to be worth about $20 billion, the mobile gaming market in the U.S. That's expected to grow to about $30 billion by 2025. So just like I said, something we expected they were going to be doing. It was the next logical move that made sense, but nice to see them actually really jumping into it now.
Very cool. Yeah, once again, hitting milestones, and very interesting. This sector of the market's very, very cool, and it's just going to grow. I mean, you can see how a lot of these things tie together. And, you look at this metaverse and what's going to come out of that. We'll get into that, another day. But it's cool to see the interaction that people have with their phones, with gaming, with everything else, and what the future can hold in that this new kind of developing world.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a really cool market to be getting into, and as it's on this massive upswing. I mean, mobile gaming's been picking up over the last decade anyways, but to the amount, the sheer revenue opportunities, the way that's grown in the last 5 years and is going to grow over the next 5 years is staggering.
Yeah, it's great. So, and we like to get into things early. It's also, I like to remind people, it's always nice to get a stock at 20 cents. It's a lot easier to double to 40 cents than it is to be in something at $30 and double to 60. So
yeah,
these are some of the things we like, but there has to be a lot of key components met. Otherwise, if you're chasing after some of these penny stocks, it's not the best thing in the world. You need to pay a lot of attention, which is what we do here. Now, on that note, Arianne Phosphate, we have them on quite a bit. Brian Ostroff, excellent guest we have on. The stock today is up almost 18%. And it's interesting because they came out with a press release today saying they've continued its work on battery technologies.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting. Yes.
Yeah, it's very cool because it's something that Brian had hinted on before about there being other applications, especially with how high grade the phosphate that they're able to get or they're able to mine is. That there were potentials for other applications, and this is just one example of what those other applications could be.
Yes, and what's curious about this, and we're going to get into it a bit more detail. We've talked to Brian, not this Friday, but the following Friday. We're going to have him on, and we'll have an FAQ. People can ask whatever questions. It's going to be just for subscribers, so it's something that we'll do a little bit of a push on, and we'll have people sign up and join. But where this plays is in the lithium iron phosphate. So not lithium ion, iron, iron. So Fe, iron, Fe. So this is a new type of battery, and it doesn't have quite the charge, but it's going to be used in the, let's say, entry-level Teslas. So Elon Musk is going to be using a lot of the lithium iron, and with that, you can, it's this phosphate, specifically this high-grade phosphate that they have at Arianne Phosphate. So now that's not guaranteeing anything. It's not saying there's any deals in the works. It's not, but it's just saying that, listen, this isn't just a pipe dream. This has a use. And we can follow that up with Brian and see what's happening. And I don't want to talk too much about it because we're looking at different types of battery things. We'll put out a video about the lithium iron battery as well. But want to get that kind of in people's heads. So if they've got questions, what's it realistically like, and specifically why their property is one that could be advantageous. And it ties into another piece that I wanted to bring up. And I don't want to get too much into that because we could talk about the battery thing. I think it's cool. And I think that people are reacting to the stock because food's not sexy. Fertilizer is not sexy, which, hey, I get it. It isn't. But I always find the stories that are more compelling, like, interesting for something that's more critical. Food's critical. Batteries aren't really. So I like it has both dimensions of being an actual real world use as well as a technological boost towards this new energy change. It gives them two kind of hats to wear, which is pretty cool. Two totally different markets to look at, which is also very interesting. And because they're close to home, they would have a market that they wouldn't necessarily have to ship on the ocean. Mm-hmm. Maybe they do. I don't know, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head. You could probably train it down. You could send it by train. But anyways, it's another interesting market. We're going to have a bunch of questions. We're going to just lay it all out with Brian a week and 2 days from now. So I thought it was very interesting. The market's definitely responded. And, when I did speak with them briefly, it was, listen, if they're, and it's real, it's not, that it's pie in the sky. This is used in lithium iron batteries. I think it wakes people up to go, ooh, now we're talking. This is a bit more exciting. This is a bit more interesting. So I think when you have that fundamental safety side of this is fertilizer, we need it. There's a supply gut and a demand growth, and there's all the other factors we talked about. But this over here is the blue sky potential that gets people fired up.
Yeah, it is. And you touched on it earlier as well, just kind of saying that it opens up another potential market for them. And that's the biggest piece to me, is it's diversifying their kind of revenue stream, and what they're going to be involved in is what it makes it exciting. And I think that's why the market's responding in the way that it is to this news. Yeah.
And everything, especially with COP going on and people talking about the environment and whatnot, and the energy situation that we're facing, anything to do with those solutions are going to do very well. So regardless of your position on the whole climate change and whether it's carbon or not, we're talking simply there's opportunity to make some money here. Let's focus our attention on the ones that can. It's an excellent another path that they can go down, and I think it's going to get a lot more attention now for sure. So congratulations to Brian and the team over at Arianne Phosphate. And if you guys have interest, reach out to us. We'll have a sign up, and we'll push out there. It's going to be for subscribers only, and it'll be more of a free flowing conversation too. So ask away, ask anything you want. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it also kind of morphs into some of the changes that we've been putting together here and working on to really engage with those that are they're signing up. And speaking of, before I go into the part two of that, we got over the one milestone here for YouTube, which is great.
Yeah, it happened. We hit the 1,000. It's a big one for us. So honestly, like, a thank you to everyone who's subscribed and liked the videos and signed up. It's a great boost for us. It helps us with the algorithm. It hopefully gets us in front of more people, like-minded individuals. So it's fantastic.
It's great. It's at least, it's a recognition that you've hit the first milestone for YouTube. So they acknowledge that you exist, and that's great. It actually makes a big difference. It's funny to say, but for us, we love it. I mean, it's great to have 1,000 people that find your stuff if nothing else, entertaining, and we really appreciate it and we love it. But it is a big step for at least YouTube to acknowledge that, and means our growth can happen a little bit better, a little bit faster. They'll start sharing stuff a bit more. But what I really wanted to leap into was one of our subscribers and people that I've talked to quite a bit had mentioned this, what China in the last little while has been doing in regards to food waste and strengthening their position in regards to food. And it ties in obviously with the phosphate and fertilizer and everything else. Brian's talked about that a number of times. They are getting a lot more aggressive with campaigns to make sure that there's no food waste. And it's certainly, it's an interesting perspective, because I think anybody that's seen the amount of food waste that goes on here, it's horrifying, it's shocking, it's terrible. You know, whether it's at Safeway where they throw things out and you go in the bins there, and there's, you know, I think they're called like anti-dumping laws, because a lot of people say, well, why don't you just take some of this food that, you know, can't we just give it away? It's much more complicated than one would think. But I think China's, you know, I think they're getting a little bit more aggressive. You know, my understanding from some reports was that they're going to start arresting people, which is that's a bit hardcore. But listen, I think if everyone could get a control on waste, food waste especially, because, you know, food is critical. But I mean waste in general. I mean, there's a lot of waste. We all countries go through an incredible amount of waste. So if there's a way that we can maximize and efficiently run things, hey, that's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, it is for sure. It's interesting to see what kind of these measures will be, because China's actually already kind of been in this campaign against food wastage already. It's something that they kicked off, you know, kind of about 18 months ago to combat what they saw as impending supply shortages, which we're seeing on our end now much more intensely than we saw 18 months ago. But you know, it's a slippery slope kind of thing of, all right, you know, it's one thing if your mom's at the dinner table and she's guilt tripping you with the whole, hey, there's kids starving in Africa, finish your dinner thing, versus the government's potentially looking at ways to punish you for imprison you or fine you or whatever it's going to be. And the interesting part of the article to me is actually right there on the screen right now, where it says efforts so far have achieved tangible results, but what can be done to ensure quality and efficiency and a sustainable food security system. So we'll see what this shakes out to being, but it's a perfect example
of the horrifying effects of government intervention into daily lives. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be more mindful. We all should do our part, as we do with other things, as well as be more mindful. And I think that's important. But once you have this type of overreach where the government, and it comes down to, we've talked about this before, the government doesn't give you any rights. Like we're born with certain inalienable rights. And this is a fundamental thing I think we need to touch on here and there, is that I don't get permission to do things from a government. That's not how this works. And that's a controversial thing to say to a lot of Canadians and Australians, who most actually think that all of their rights are derived from a government body. And to me, that's utterly insane. But then again, I mean, I studied a lot of international politics at university. I've got a degree in it. So that I don't prescribe to that belief. But it's interesting because you can see that, you know, a government going a little bit too far with the best intentions. And I think in the West here, what we can do is focus on that term mindful. And if we're more mindful and we just think about what we're consuming, energy, food, what we're wasting, that's only a good thing.
It is, yeah. It's only a way to improve the overall global system, regardless of that's on an energy front or on a food supply front or whatever. But mindfulness and taking all these things into account it's the path forward that's going to make sense for everyone. But like you said, when it's government intervention and government policy surrounding it, that's where it gets to be a very slippery slope.
Yes, and that's the slope we're on. But in any event, Lots of changes, lots of good things happening though as well. But this is interesting because, and it ties in together with Brian, and I'm going to remember some of the questions I've already been formulating when I saw this article, knowing what he had said before about, them not wanting to send out fertilizer as well. They're keeping it for themselves. So one has to wonder, partly is it for food, but also are they kind of looking as well going, wow, we should be keeping some of this phosphate for ourselves as well for some of these entry level lithium iron batteries that they don't have as much to charge. I think you get about 40 or 50 kilometers out of them. It's not like the giant, like it's not going to be your top of the line highway traveling car or Tesla or electric vehicle. This is going to be your kind of bombing around the city type thing. That's the type of battery we're talking about. So entry level and probably a lot of them, a lot longer to charge, not as much of a charge, not much power, but a solution to get people that first step in. All these things tying together, and how interesting to think that is it going to be a toss up of, should we use phosphate for food or should we use it for these batteries?
Yeah, the point will come where we may have to pick and choose on that as well. So it's very interesting. Yeah.
Good. Well, enjoy the rest of the day. Great to see you. Anything else you want to leave off on?
No, that's great. I think we touched on everything. We'll see everyone again on Friday, and looking forward to it.
Excellent. Enjoy the rest of the day, everyone.
All right, take care, guys.